Good day, everyone. It is very important for us all to understand the overall concepts of the Scrum framework because Scrum is widely used across the software development industry and is useful for so many different software implementations. Scrum is a framework of the Agile methodology. It is an iterative approach that aids in the process of building a product that uses predefined Scrum ceremonies and roles, which we will discuss later as we progress. While Scrum can be used for any project, it is primarily used within software development. Scrum is valuable within development as it accepts that a product or project cannot be fully defined at the start and allows for constantly changing requirements and new features as the project goes along, which leads into the concept of requirements volatility, in which the stakeholders can constantly change requirements as the product is being built to ensure that any feature will solve the stakeholders' needs. Scrum teams are self-organizing, and with this, Scrum does not recognize any manager, nor any title. This would ultimately mean that any team member can be placed into any role, such as a developer into a testing position or vice versa. Now, in actual practice, this is potentially unrealistic, as employees tend to have their own specializations and their own career goals. But with job rotation and mentorships, it is a possible practice, but with potential reduction in efficiency. Scrum uses specific team roles throughout its process, which we will discuss in greater detail as we go along. In short, these roles include the product owner, Scrum Master, and the general team member. The most basic Scrum role is, of course, the team member. Anyone working on the project in some capacity would be part of the Scrum team, which would include the product owner, Scrum Master, and the entire development team. The development team, or dev team for short, is the actual group of team members that are developing the product. In this aspect, the term developing or developer would also include the test engineers. Typically, the most effective Scrum team would consist of 5 to 9 people. And as mentioned previously, effective Scrum teams are cross-functional and able to work within any role, not just one. A product owner is a member of the Scrum team and is also the team member that receives all of the stakeholder input. The product owner then takes that input and converts it into an understandable and refined set of requirements that the remainder of the team can understand. It is crucial that there only be a single product owner so that there is not mixed guidance coming from multiple product owners to the team. The product owner then places the refined set of requirements into a product backlog, which is a repository or collection of future features that will eventually be created by the dev team or potentially abandoned by the dev team. A Scrum Master is also a member of the Scrum team. This person is meant to provide guidance to the rest of the team on the effective use of Scrum. In addition, this person ensures that specific Scrum events take place and within their prescribed time boxes. Additionally, the Scrum Master aids in the removal of team member impediments, which can take a variety of forms, such as hardware issues where features cannot be created due to lack of existing infrastructure. Next, we should discuss the concept of a sprint. Now, this is where the actual dev work is accomplished and is done in fixed length iterations. In length, a sprint is a consistent cycle of 1 month or less, though in my experience the most common length is 2 weeks. During the sprint, the dev team works with the sprint backlog, which, similarly to a product backlog, is a collection of features that are meant to be created during the current sprint cycle. A sprint allows for the capability of quick change. Once the sprint is completed, should the stakeholder decide they do not like the feature they requested, they are able to quickly pivot to a feature that solves their problem, or even abandon the dev work already completed. The efficiency of a sprint is described by the term velocity. Many Scrum-based tools give access to what is known as a sprint burn-down chart, which gives a visual representation of the sprint velocity. This usually is shown as a burn down of user stories as they are completed and shown as a line graph that typically, when completed, would go in a downward fashion. When new stories are added to a sprint, the burn down chart would show a little bit of, I guess you would say, inflation as it burns up a little bit. The implementation of Scrum comes with 4 main ceremonies or events that must take place, which includes the daily Scrum meeting, sprint planning, sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. The most common Scrum ceremony is the daily Scrum meeting. This event is meant to be limited to 15 minutes per day and should be held every day. The objective of the event is to review sprint progress and to discuss and resolve any impediments that may occur throughout the sprint, such as any technical hurdles that may be encountered. For example, should a member of our team have issues with getting proper access to a database server, the daily Scrum meeting is one way to resolve that issue. Next, we have sprint planning, which is the process of, well, planning your next sprint. It allows the team to come together and decide what will be the next sprint's objective, which is typically prioritized by the product owner. At this point, user stories tend to be already refined and well written so that each feature is easy to understand by all team members. Now, for a 1-month sprint, this would be time boxed to about 8 hours. Sprint reviews are held at the end of the sprint and gives the development team time to demonstrate the work that they've completed throughout the sprint. This also gives the product owner time to provide feedback to the dev team. The sprint review may provide additional inputs that could influence the objectives of the next sprint, depending on the outcome of the current sprint. The sprint retrospective is a ceremony that lets all members of the Scrum team come together to discuss the issues of the most recent sprint. It allows the team to focus on the positives of the sprint. For example, perhaps communication improves significantly throughout the sprint. Other focuses of the retrospective is to discuss things that require improvement or that just do not work at all with the team. As an example, perhaps our daily Scrum meeting is taking too much time, and our team decides we need to improve the efficiency of the daily Scrum meeting so as to not waste precious development time. Ultimately, the sprint retrospective is just a way to improve the harmony between team members so that there aren't any personal impediments that bring issues to the sprint. To wrap up, Scrum is an agile framework that helps break down a project into an iterative and incremental approach, which aids in the process of building any project. But it is most useful in software development. From a basic overview, the framework contains specific ceremonies and roles that assist in this project breakdown, and has grown in commonality and popularity amongst development companies since its inception.